Welcome to another conversation in People in Fundraising. This podcast features interviews with nonprofit professionals who discuss their career journeys, lessons learned, and enthusiasm for working in fundraising. And here's your host, the founder of People in Fundraising, Tim Wilson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode in Season 2 of the People in Fundraising Conversations series, where I invite guests from the nonprofit and social impact sectors to talk with us about their career journeys, lessons they've learned working in our industry, and also putting the people focus in the People in Fundraising title, sharing some anecdotes, how their lives, work lives, personal lives may intersect and such. Today, I'm really excited to welcome Paul Majnik from Salt Lake City, Utah, to our program. Good morning, Paul.
Hey, how are you, Tim?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am also doing great. I'm getting to spend time with you. What would be better than that?
Oh, lots of things. Such as that pergola you're building in your backyard.
That is true. Well, that is pretty good. That's a good competition there. No, I'm thrilled to be here. I appreciate you inviting me.
Absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure. Paul and I connected many summers ago. I was out visiting Utah from Massachusetts at the time, and just wanted to meet people that do prospect research development in Utah. And this was 2006, so it's been quite a long time. And in that time, Paul, your team at the University of Utah has just taken off and grown in leaps and bounds.
Yeah, no, that is very true. Yeah, I mean, when you met me, I mean, I was in the prospect research team, and I think it was probably that at that point it was just Katie and myself, if I'm remembering
That's
the
right.
technology correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, the prospect development team itself is just shy of 10 people at this point from that point. So how times have changed, right?
Absolutely. It's been exciting to watch both that team grow from afar and also your own career advance at University of Utah. Currently, Paul is the Deputy Chief Philanthropy Officer of Advancement Services at the University of Utah. And as you just mentioned, you started out a team of 2 in prospect research. So Paul, I'd love for you to share with us a little bit about how you entered the nonprofit industry and how long you've been at the U, and what you've seen in terms of your own career progression and sort of the responsibilities, the scope of your teams blossom over that time.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I probably would start by, I think probably all of us don't necessarily, well, there are a lot of us probably didn't know much about the field before we got into it. I certainly fall into that category. My background when I was in school was a mix of computer science and finance, really is what it boiled down to. So that's kind of, and the job I had prior to getting into advancement, I was doing credit union software. And I was involved with working with clients and resolving issues that were kind of blends of accounting and technology and financial systems and resolving things. So my entry point was, at the time, I was looking to make a change, and I saw a job at the University of Utah for in development, which I had no idea at all what that meant. I didn't know if it was software development, real estate, in candor.
Yeah.
No idea what that meant.
Sure.
But it was talking about doing modeling and like linear regression modeling and some things, which I had experience doing in grad school.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's fun. I mean, that's something I'm pretty good at that. And
yeah,
I love big data sets, and I love data in general. And I thought, I should check that out, see how that goes. And I'll probably do that for like a couple of years, and just to kind of do it, and then I'll do something else. that is really where my head kind of was at the time. And I ended up interviewing, and Erica Marken took a chance on me. And she's been I think your supervisor as well.
That's
And
right.
she hired me, and Katie Nelson, who's now very doing a great job in the prospect development field.
Awesome.
The two of them brought me on board, so I joined their team. And
Cool.
and really in my mind, I was thinking, I'm just going to be doing data projects. I'm going to be doing, models. I'm going to, but had no sense of what that looks like in a university shop. And I think,
Yeah.
as you and probably the viewers know, I immediately, it's like where you have to wear all the hats. Like all of a sudden everything's coming at you.
Yeah.
And so I was on the prospect research team doing I was doing bios, I was doing prospect management type stuff, even though we were pretty light on the prospect management side at that point.
Yeah.
Anything and everything in kind of prospect development, we were working on, like I said. And then we were Erica got a great opportunity, and she moved fairly early in my career, and so it was Katie Nelson and myself for a long time. And then we had various colleagues. I mean, we usually have a third here and a third here, but we stayed about a team of 3 for years.
Okay.
In prospect development.
Yeah.
And so that was where that was my entry point into advancement, and that was the world that I knew. It's funny how things just kind of develop. So like I said, I have a background in technology and information systems, and really it's just kind of these opportunities just emerge. Is really and in this particular case, due to some shifting around of positions on the IT side of the house in advancement, I was asked would you be willing to pick up the reporting side as well, in addition to the prospect development side. And so I did. And so then I picked that up, and I had that for a few years. And then that evolved to, would you take all of the IT at that point? and so I did. And then down the road a little bit further, my boss at the time, she was making a shift, still in advancement, but going to shift to the donor relations side of the house. And she was over all of advancement services.
Oh goodness.
And then it basically boiled down to, well, do you want to take the gift services aspect of it too? So I did. And it really is just kind of a gradual that's been my path. It's been a gradual boiling up of, yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. Yes, I can do that. And then I was the one that built the training team, and we're actually going to be rebuilding it up again here soon. But and then that fell into it. So I mean,
wow.
It's been a very gradual progression over time about how that worked, and just you do the best you can to tighten up the departments that you supervise, and then if you have more bandwidth, you add a little bit more, you add a little bit more, you add a little more. So
yeah, that's fascinating. I wonder, obviously a testament to the skills you have, the ability to work with various departments and leadership, that they kept seeing opportunities. Well, let's ask Paul if this would be something he want to take on. And also, reflecting well that you have decided to stay at the U for as long as you have and take on these. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship where the institution and you both see a lot of value in the role you have, the skills you bring to it. So kudos to you, Paul. That's awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Can you just, piggybacking on that, you talk with us about the management component of overseeing various operations. You mentioned prospect development, gift services, the IT side. Is a lot of that just sort of learning on the job? Are you looking at resources for managing multifaceted teams? How did that work for you?
Yeah, I do think that's true. I mean, I guess from my perspective, not, I guess speaking, yeah, from my experience, I would say you do have to learn on the job. You have to dive in at some point.
Yeah.
And you have to start small. You have to manage a person or two, and then get a sense of how that works. And I think people management can be really challenging, quite frankly. I mean, it's not for everybody. And in fact,
Sure.
people that often will say, like, how do I get into management? How do I manage people? And I have to ask, do you really want to manage people?
Right.
I mean, there's some great parts of it, but it's not for everybody. But to your point, I bring this up because it is challenging. It brings a whole nother layer to things. Everything is very personal, and it's you have to different personalities and understanding different personalities and meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
And there's some soft skills that you just either have to have a good starting point coming into it, or you're going to have to really work to develop them over time.
Sure.
And I think you can start ahead in that regard, but you're going to have to dive in and just try it. You got to get it at some point. But it's kind of, I think where your question's kind of going is, I think once you kind of have a sense of working with people and being empathetic and my personal management is like, I think if you are just fighting for what's good for the people that work for you and how do I help you be successful, and just try to clear all the rest of the stuff out of it. I think of myself as a very blocking and tackling. What do I need to move out of your way to let you do what you need to do? And what are you trying to do? Oh, let me help you do that. I'm going to get the hell out of the way. Unless you want me back in, I'm happy to have eyes, happy to brainstorm. But I think my personal approach to it. I think if I have any skills, my meager skill set that I've got here, I think I'm pretty good at hiring people.
Yeah.
I think I think I'm pretty good about team building, and I'm pretty good as far as the hiring goes about hiring the smartest, nicest people that I possibly can. I try to keep it as simple as that.
Yeah.
And then let, like I said, help them succeed. What do I need to do? I'll do the dumb stuff. I'll get it out of your way. How do I make you do what you need to do here?
Yeah.
And that's worked out. That for me in my experience, that's worked out pretty well.
That is a great answer. And I think the proof is in the pudding. And as you were talking, Paul, I was thinking, the people that I know who have been at the U for a long time. So you mentioned Katie Nelson, coming up on 20 years, and maybe she already is at the 20-year mark. Dan Jackson on your team's been there for a long time. Erica Marken was there for closing on 2 decades. And even people on the fundraising side that I've known through conferences and such. It goes beyond there's something in the water type of a theory of like, why do people stay at some places for so long? And you touched on it with you and your team. I think it's a testament to how you manage the individuals and the collective team that people like Dan and Katie, have been working at the U for as long as they have, and others as well of long track records.
I will say and I can't. I'd love to take credit for all of this, but some of it's just I'm just very lucky that things have worked out. I'm very, very fortunate to have such a collegial. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's a better word for it, but just nice people in
Yeah.
advanced services. And for me, that is probably more than anything that why I've been there so long is the relationships I
Sure.
have with people and this longevity. And I care about them. I know them. It's really unique. I've never had a working experience like that. The folks, I mean, Kirsten, the folks that report directly to me, have all been there, like to your point, a very long time.
Yeah.
Decade plus in a lot of
Yeah.
those. And uh, I think the probably the broader answer. I'd love to take credit for all this. I do think there's some culture stuff that really is part of that. I also just think it's the university. If I really want to be frank, the university has just been on such a wild ride, such a swing over the last decade, and grown just exponentially.
Sure.
And the evolution there. It's been a very fun time to be part of the University of Utah, kind of on its ascent.
Yeah.
And that's palpable. Where it's what's happening at the university. We are an effect. What advancement, the changes of advancement have been an effect of what is happening at the university in response to that.
I see.
And the growth and the change, and that's been a ton of fun.
Yeah. That is a great segue without you knowing it, Paul. but yeah, no, and a really insightful answer, because yes, even for people that, like, I worked downtown in Salt Lake City for a couple of years, and I'd go up to Primary Children's Hospital, which is next to the U campus, and the physical growth, the rise in the athletic program, and even, was it just this week that the U and Salt Lake Community College announced a campus?
Yep. That's right. Collaborative campus. Yep. Down south. That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. So just amazing developments. I wanted to touch with my next question specifically on some developments that you were heavily involved with. Talk with us about those, and then what did you do to celebrate or decompress after those were done? And so that was wrapping up the comprehensive campaign at the University of Utah, as well as the new CRM migration. So those two components concurrently. So talk about your role there and what that
first off, that's a great question. I'm trying to figure out how to answer that best. Very challenging. I'll be. I used to have a lot more hair, and it used to be a lot less gray. The last little while it's taken its toll. But no, I mean it really was. It was a ton of work, and it really boiled down to I am a product owner and was really kind of tasked as being the lead person on the CRM migration that we did, and for everybody, we were coming from Advance, and we've been on that for several years and built a lot of systems around that, very Oracle based, and then we moved to Ascend on Salesforce. Okay. And massive effort. And I would say, the only reason we were able to do that is, again, we've got really amazing, smart people and worked so hard for so many years. And I'll also say in addition to that, we had to grow the staff to do what we needed to do. Sure. We'd still be in the process of it right now had we not almost doubled the size of some of our technical staff.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's so many efficiencies you can gain with going to a new CRM, whatever that may be, a modern CRM. But in my experience, what you usually find is the demand escalates with. You can get efficient in some areas, but then there's more to do. There's always more. And I found that to be the case. So, so your question, how do you do both of those things? In our case, we had to grow, or we weren't going to get it done.
Right.
The other part is it's just a constant prioritization game. And I mean, and I found that, I mean, that's part of what I probably bring is just like green light this, let's pause that, green light this, we got to move over, we got to shift, we got to move over here. Because on the one thing I'll say on the campaign side, a lot of that fell on other teams. Like our donor relations had a heavy lift, our communications had a heavy lift. Leadership had, of course, had a very heavy lift here. We did have a lift there, but I would say wasn't commensurate with those other units. Ours is much more the reporting side. How do we support things that are going out in pieces? How do we, that's probably where more of our world was. But certainly there was a lot of, we need this now. We got to pivot on a dime.
Right.
And we did it. And so it's the staff. They're amazing. I know it's really pretty much as simple as that. And then just doing the best you can and trying to be real about bandwidth and what's possible. With the campaign, we got hard deadlines on campaigns. Events are set, milestones are set for communications that are leading up to things. All of that is in place. The planning is in place. Again, that's probably more what we came into with the financial track. Where are we tracking? How's it going? That falls into my world.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I want to be very, very real. Balancing both of those things. Unite is our CRM. That's our branded CRM. Okay. The U is the little block U for the University of Utah. We're very proud of it. But
nice.
That project took years.
Sure.
We were very early on with the vendor that we chose, and that presented some unique challenges of because of that. However, definitely overlapping this with the campaign took a toll on the timeline for that project. 100%.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And then you asked about the celebration part. We did do some big for the campaign. That was obvious. We did lots of capital campaign celebrations, and we did some internal stuff in the office in addition to the big events with all the donors and whatnot. When that was fun.
Yeah.
On the CRM side, we did how did we phrase it? We did a wake for advance, which was really our celebration for the new CRM and wishing everybody or thanking everybody for their efforts into that. And that was a lot of fun. Quite frankly, I wish I would have done more. I probably should have done more than that because it was a massive effort. And as anybody on my team will tell you, yes, we've crossed the Rubicon. We are on the new CRM. We're doing our thing. It never is really over though. You're smoothing and tweaking for quite a while after that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the people, the recognition that what we just did, that's so important. And making sure not only that I'm doing it, I think the other thing that's important is making sure all of the leadership really understands the magnitude of what just happened.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was my job to make sure that was the case.
Sure, definitely.
Yeah.
And so important to celebrate, as you climb up those figurative mountains, scaling those. But yeah, just to reflect on, man, we've hauled all this way, and it was a collective effort. So really insightful. Thank you for sharing that. As a follow-up, what's the next mountain for you to climb professionally? Are there, projects you can talk about or developments you see with trends, Chat GPT or anything you see, like we need to either start doing this or stop doing something or work in a more efficient way to scale this next mountain?
Yeah, in our case, it's probably not going to be the sexiest answer in the world that there's a lot of things we want to do in analytics and in BI, of course, absolutely. However, where my head is right now, much more is what you just touched upon. Now that we're on the new platform and we've got everything stabilized, let's now look at efficiencies, and let's look at how do we work smarter on some of these things, because now we've got new tools at our disposal to do some of these things differently and rethink things. So we're actually underway of really doing some operational, just kind of let's step back, brainstorm. Is this how we want to do this? And changing a lot of our core processes and how, especially in the advancement services side, how do we want to do work now forward, and how do we do it in a way that people are getting what they want, and we keep the throughput going.
Sure.
Because it gets really hard when it's the whole university is growing. Advancement is growing. Everything gets more complicated. Everybody's trying to figure out what the lanes are. It's like, okay, how do we build for scale here? Because we know it's not stopping. So, but to kind of put specificity on a lot of things, whether it's transactional flows of gifts rolling through different systems, online systems, that's very much at the forefront of my mind. How do we cut out all that time and really automate that as much as we possibly can? Really upping our game as far as the reporting and the sophistication of how we're tracking all the massive fundraising projects that we've got going across campus all the time. I feel like we're a little too fragmented there right now for my liking. We're raising a lot of money, doing a lot of good stuff. I think we can be more coordinated. I think that's the goal there. We're going to get there. That's high on my radar. We've got a lot of third-party platforms I want to get going. I'd like to. I'll tell you a few things that are kind of on the forefront of my mind. I'd love us to stand up Marketing Cloud. We've got that in our back pocket, waiting as a project to really get that very tightly integrated. I'd love to get that up and going. Right now we're using a bunch of different mass comm platforms. Man, I think I've got 33 projects right now that I want to launch. It's like, but those are some of the big ones that I forefront my mind.
Well, and silly me as the interviewer to think now there's like perhaps a brief moment where Paul and his team can take a little breath and reflect.
What it turns out, Tim, is even when you're not in a campaign, everybody still needs money to make the university run. So it never really turns off.
That's true. That is the nature of fundraising. Yes. Well, Paul, we have about 10 minutes left, and I want to get to hopefully both of these next questions, if that works for you.
Sure.
So thank you. I mean, this is just really insightful. It's great to reconnect with you in this way. I'd like if you can take a moment to think about your first example of professional leadership. What did you learn from that person? And you did work for a few years outside of higher education fundraising. So it could be in that setting, it could be you have 3 degrees from the University of Utah, so it could be a faculty member, whoever it is. I'd love to just have you take a moment to talk about that, please.
so the first example you're saying of leadership.
Yeah.
Geez, well, one of the first ones that comes to mind is probably the when I was working in the credit union software, my supervisor there, what was great about him was he was a really great blend of being competent about what we were doing and understanding what we were doing. He did it himself. He was hands-on, but so good with people, and that made an impression on me. But it, and so I would say big influence. And now we're very, very good friends, which is so funny. Like I would consider him one of my best friends to this day. What a wonderful guy. But I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
Even though it's not what you're asked, I'm going to jump ahead to a different experience that I think was really, and this was later in my career, but another supervisor of mine, I will tell you, I thought what she really taught me was, which is probably one of the places where I was always a little bit weaker and I needed to get stronger, was I learned from her just to be fearless about honesty and be the truth teller. And it's going to suck. And there's some rooms where nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
But you have to do it, and you have to do it with skill and with diplomacy, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that if I want to summarize that was something that hit me so hard. Like, I've got to be better about that. I got to model that. And that served me really well in my career. Not the question you asked, but I thought that's kind of the spirit of what you asked.
No, it is. Yeah, absolutely. Can we just continue that piece of it?
Yeah.
And this is, compliments to you, Paul, because all of your answers have been extemporaneously given, because there was a glitch somehow and Paul did not get my interview questions ahead of time. So everything you've heard today from Paul has been on the spot and dynamite. So thank you.
You were very kind. That's all
I would love for you just to think, here again on the spot, what that was like to be fearless in telling the brutal truth. Is there a setting, is there a conversation that comes to mind where it's like, okay, I had to do it, I did it, I took that mentor's advice, that person's advice, and yes, it was hard, but, and then you go from there.
Let me see if this is kind of answering your question. I think the way that I kind of approach it, one piece of it is there does have to be some trust there. And I don't want to make it. You always want. I do feel like you do want to tell the hard truth, because you need to do that. But how you deliver it and how it's done depends on a lot of things, in my opinion. That's where kind of the art comes into it.
Yeah.
If I have a strong relationship with someone, I can just you can just face value that thing. If you're in a room with a bunch of deans or the president of the university, or it's something, maybe the thing you have to say has critical implications upon another person that's in the room or their team that's in the room.
Yeah.
That's where you really have to, maybe soften it. I always tell people I'm all about truth, but tell the truth as kindly as possible.
Yes.
and I don't know if this is answering your question, but I think that's where the magic comes in there. You really have to on the spot kind of say, okay, what's the setting? What are the personalities? How should I present this? I have to present it, but how should I do it?
Yeah.
There's not a one size fits all for that, in my opinion.
I agree. And that's definitely one of those hard developments, hard lessons to learn as a soft skill. So, but thank you for sharing that. Paul, my last question here, I'm going to preface it by just telling you and our audience that the nature of this program, People in Fundraising, is designed to have people like you talk about their professional career, but also what makes you tick as a person. And a lot of times I facilitate that angle of the program by drawing on quotes from authors or opinion columnists that I come across in my own reading. And so I came across this quote a while ago from social scientist Arthur Brooks, and he was quoting a former Formula One race car driver named Alex Diaz Ribeiro. And Alex's quote was in an article that Arthur published. So as I tell you the quote, and we prefaced it before we went recording too, I'd love just to have you reflect on the quote in your own experience, and answer it as you see fit. So Alex's quote was, "Unhappy is he or she who depends on success to be happy." And that is succinctly Alex's quote. So as you reflect on Paul the professional, Paul the person, where do you derive fulfillment, happiness, purpose in the spheres of your life that you're comfortable talking about, and maybe there's intersections between your career and your personal. So just whatever you want to go with, and we'll conclude our conversation with those remarks.
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess what's immediately coming to my mind, and like you said, I think it does intersect probably all aspects of my life, professional, personal, is I think my realization is it is people. I mean, which is, we'll set it off with exactly what this show is about.
Yeah.
It's relationships with people. It really boils down to that. I think I mentioned earlier in our chat, that's such a big reason why my longevity at the U has been what it has been, because I have such strong relationships here with people I wholeheartedly care for,
Mm-hmm.
and I respect, and just think the world of, and that makes, every day, like, you look forward to seeing these people and working with these people and doing something positive with these people. I say the same thing goes with my social life. It's the people that you get to have in the sphere of your life, and surrounding yourself with folks that to make you the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
That whatever that means for you. But let you be your truest you.
Sure.
And I think I've got that very much, and I'm very fortunate that I have that probably in all spheres.
Yeah.
A lot of that, which I like I said, not everybody has that. I know that, and I feel fortunate that I do have that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the relationships with people that make you the best you can be, and I think it's like, I think what you're alluding to with that quote, it's not the necessarily did you succeed or did you fail at the end. It's that journey, and that's the fun part. It's like, we did it together. We were on this path together. We took the trip together. That's where all the fun happens. The end is just the end, whatever that is. But you got to be in the moment, in my opinion, or it's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not worth doing.
I love that answer, Paul. That is dynamite. And I think, a couple of things come to mind for me, and thank you for that. Because I think, as you've talked today, you see the results of that investing in the relationships. Your tenure at the University of Utah, the people on your team that have been there for a long stretch of time. And I feel like, for me, I think, in terms of us knowing each other, I'm just going to go there. I wasn't planning to do this, but there were a couple of opportunities that I was really excited about pursuing at the U. Let's see, 7, 8 years ago. And for various reasons, I was really motivated to pursue it. And one of those reasons was as an applicant, but also as someone who had visited your office, I could see the value that you and your team placed on the working relationship. It wasn't just filling in a role with this person. As you said earlier, you hire people that are smart and you hire people that are kind. And so, for me, that was a motivating influence. And for various reasons, those opportunities did not pan out. And I was particularly crushed with the second one. I can still remember where I was when I called you on the phone.
Me too. I remember too.
And I've visited that spot. I lived outside of Metro Boston at the time, and I remember like driving in this area and parking my car, and it's by the Charles River, and it was this very scenic spot where I had to deliver some really unfortunate news that I wasn't anticipating throughout the applicant process. And you handled it so well. And I feel like that investment of the relationship has led to where we are today. We've had lunch together a few times. It was wonderful to see you at the Case Utah conference. Here you are as a guest on the program, and it's been just a really meaningful experience for me to have you on the program today. Firstly, because of the answers you've given, the conversation you've led with, but also, as you said, it's not necessarily the end point. It is the journey of those relationships. And so, 7 years later, we're still in communication. And that means a lot to me. So I appreciate you staying invested.
Well, you're very kind, and I feel exactly the same way. And I just think the world of you, and I love what you're doing with this program. I think that's so great. And I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to have the conversation with you. Always fun to hang out with you.
Likewise.
Always here for it. So
yeah, absolutely, Paul. And I think, it's for me, it's recognizing the people in my career journey who are genuine and authentic. And I think other hiring managers would have been, okay, well, Tim in Massachusetts just said no, so he can go pound sand. But again, I think it speaks well for you that the people that know you and work with you are invested in the institution, in the team's success, and in the success of the relationships. And I'm certainly one of those. I'm just grateful to be in touch with you, Paul, and to know you. So thank you.
Well, I feel the same about you. So it is very mutual.
Yes, absolutely. We should get lunch again sometime soon.
I would love that.
Yes. Well, on that note, Paul, thank you so much for a really meaningful, insightful conversation. We've covered a lot of topics and ended it on some personal anecdotes here. And I just appreciate your time and appreciate you being a guest on the program today. So thank you very much. And for our audience, you can find Paul's conversation on the People in Fundraising website, peopleinfundraising.com, as well as on LinkedIn and YouTube. On all of those platforms, Paul, your interview will be aired sometime this fall of 2023. So I'll definitely give you a heads up before we go live with that. But thank you again for your time and for your support. And to our audience, thank you for your support of People in Fundraising. Until the next interview, have a great day.